Welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at lists. And lists can be used to hold both single data types and custom objects or classes. They can be resized to grow as new values are added. They are mutable types which can be written to, and there are immutable types that you cannot write into, but only read from. And let's look at those. So first of all, let's create a list of months. So months, which will be a list of, you just use this method here and then you add the elements. So for example, January, then February, and then for example, March, and so forth. Okay, I'm not gonna go over all of the months. The cool thing of list of that it can contain any type of list item. So val any types, for example, is going to be a list of, and then you have a number, well, a bunch of numbers here, like so 1, 2, 3, and then you have the boolean value true or false, and then you have the string, like it accepts all types of data. So in order to print the amount of items that you have in an item, you can just go ahead and use print any types dot size. So let's run this and actually see something in action. And this will just tell me that there are 6 items in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can also access items of a given list by using the index. So for example, if I want to get February, I would use months with the index of 1. And let me comment this line out here and run it again. And now it will say February. You can also loop through it in a similar fashion as we've seen before, right? So you have a for loop with the month in months, and then you just print each month in a new line with the month, like so. Okay, so let's check that out. Comment this line out here and get all of the months that we have in there. So January, February, March. Okay, so now let's look at what we can do with such a list of list. Okay, so we can just go ahead and use months dot and then see what our IDE offers us. And you can see it has a bunch of methods to offer. Well, it doesn't allow me to do it properly now. It's complaining because of the errors that we're creating here, but you can see that there are a bunch of methods that you can use from. It's going to allow you to select one of those. In my case, my IDE just doesn't seem to like it right now, but generally speaking, you can just go ahead and check. So here, for example, with any types dot, and you can see list index of, then we have the list iterator size. So it has a bunch of properties as well as methods that we can use. And you can just play around with those if you want to. Now, the problem here is that these lists are immutable, so we cannot add new items to them. Of course, when we change the code here, but we cannot add a new item to months, for example. So for example, there is no add method here, so we cannot add new items to it. And in order to make a list that is going to be mutable, we can convert our existing list into a mutable list and then add items. So let's convert months into an additional months list, and we're going to use months dot to mutable list, like so. And now this additional months is going to be a list now, which will be a list, but it will be changeable, so we can add new items to it. So let's create a new months list, which will in this case be an array of, and I'm just going to add April, then I'm going to add May and June, for example, right? And now what I can do is I can combine them. So I can use additional months dot add all. So I want to add all items from my new months array. Okay, and now let's print the additional months like so. Let's see what's gonna be displayed for us. And we can see January, February, March, April, May, June. So we added those months and that worked. So the months itself will only have those 3 months in them, but then we have this additional months list, which is a mutable list that we can mutate, meaning we can change. Now, if you want not to add all months at once and you don't want to create a separate array of or whatever, you can just go ahead and use additional months.add, and you can add, for example, July here. Okay, let's run the code again, and this will now add another month to our list. You can see here. So now you can use it as a little challenge to add the other months that are still missing. So pause the video and add the other months either with this approach or with the approach that you saw earlier with the array of different months. Now, if you want to create a mutable list of a particular type, you can also go ahead and just say mutable list of, and then you need to define the type. So here I'm going to define that it's going to be a type of string, and here I have the different days. So for example, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, and now we can add to our days because it's a mutable list, right? We can use add and add the Thursday to it, and then for example print the days like so. And let me not print that anymore. Let's run it real quick here, and we can see it prints the days for us. So that's how you add items. What if you want to override items in a given list? Well, you can just go ahead and say that at the position of days 2, for example, which would be Wednesday, I'm just going to change that to Sunday. And now let's run it again. You can see now we have Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, Thursday. And now if you want to remove a given item, you can just use the remove add method. So remove add, and then you need to pass the index, or you could remove all items, or you could remove a filter of items and so forth. But we're going to keep it simple. Let's say I want to remove the item at index 3, which in this case would be Thursday. So let's run again. And we can see it just says Monday, Tuesday, Sunday. So this Thursday that I added earlier now was deleted. So now instead let's delete index 1, which will delete the Tuesday from it. So Monday, Sunday, Thursday. Okay, that is how you can remove a particular item. What if you want to remove all? Well, you can just go ahead and say days.remove all. And here you need to say which kind of list you want to remove. So let's say you just want to remove a filter of it. You can create another list, val remove list. And this will remove day list, or however you want to call it. This will be a mutable list of strings as well, but it will just contain mon and wed. Okay, so now you could go ahead and only remove particular items by using the remove list, like so, and run it again, and you will see that Monday and Wednesday are not going to be a part of the list anymore. So Tuesday, Sunday, Thursday, because we deleted the other list that we created. But you can also just use days, which is also a mutable list, right? So here, let me do the same thing with days.remove all. And here, I'm just going to pass days. This will remove all of the items. So you see, print days just gives me an empty list. So that's really how you can delete the entire thing. Basically, you are passing the filter that you want to apply. I am passing all days that I want to delete, so it just removes all for me. So I would really recommend to just go ahead and use the dot operator to then just get some ideas of what you can do with it. You know, you can replace all, you can add, and so forth. There are a bunch of items that you have there. Like you can get the size, you can set things and so forth. Just play around with the methods there and you should be good.